Charles County. Welcome to an episode of Inside Your County Government, a chance for our residents to learn all about day-to-day operations and the inside workings of Charles County government. I'm Doria Fleisher from the Media Division. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. Today, we're actually not just talking about what goes on inside Charles County government, we're talking about what goes around Charles County government and how we are connected to the greater Washington metro area. So we're going to be talking about regional collaboration, how our counties and cities and towns across the Washington metro area join forces to strengthen our economy, improve transportation, and address shared challenges like housing and climate change. I'm joined today by two amazing leaders who, being civic leaders and understanding how government works and also how governments can work together is the focus of their work. Our Commissioner President, Reuben Collins. Thanks so much for being here today, Commissioner Collins.
My pleasure.
And also Clark Mercer, who's the Executive Director of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, which we call COG, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yep, grateful to be here. Thank you.
Beautiful. I love that you have given me an easy acronym, so thank you. I appreciate that I don't have to spit out Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments every time.
It's the D.C. region. It would be weird if we didn't have an acronym.
It is our jam, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And Commissioner Collins, you're here in a dual role because along with being the president of our Board of County Commissioners within Charles County, you are currently the vice chair of COG, and you are going to be the chair of COG as of January 2026, yes?
A monumental moment for Charles County.
Tell me why.
I will be the first Charles County chair of COG.
That's amazing.
And for me, this is monumental in a lot of ways because when I was first elected, part of my responsibilities included being the rep for Charles County government at COG. And so seeing things reach this stage, it's monumental.
That's beautiful. And we're going to talk a little bit about COG and why we have this, why one of our commissioners is a representative, how our commissioner got to be the chair. So we'll dive into that. But I wanted to start with just some very basics because I think a lot of our listeners and viewers are probably not familiar with what COG is. So what is this organization and what is your purpose?
Sure. So when your listeners are hoping that their governments are coordinating and working on issues that affect them every day, that's where COG comes in. So we work with the 24 local governments in and around the District of Columbia, suburban Maryland, Northern Virginia, and the district. Those 24 governments represent about 6 million people. So if our footprint were its own state, we'd be the most diverse state in the country, we'd be the most educated state in the country, and we'd be 14th in the country for GDP. And we work on everything from clean air to clean water to transportation planning to public safety, issues that you can't solve in Charles County alone and that don't neatly obey boundaries on a map.
I think that's such an interesting way to look at it because we talk frequently, Charles County is a national heritage area now, and we talk about how we focus on our county lines. You're in Charles County, you're in St. Mary's County, you're in Anne Arundel, you're in Calvert, but people that come to us don't recognize those county lines. They just want to come to the Southern Maryland region. And I think about what you said about the issues don't know boundary lines. So it's not like, you and I were talking about homelessness earlier in that issue, and it's not like it matters whether you step foot one county to another. These are issues that affect that whole area of a lot of people.
Sure, and if you're visiting an area, you're cognizant that you might be going into a county, but you've got a lot of folks that live in Charles County, work in the district, worked in Virginia, and they just want systems to work for them. They want to be able to get on roads that aren't clogged up with traffic. Mm-hmm. They want to live and work and play in a safe area. They want to breathe clean air. And so they don't think about boundaries like necessarily we do at the government level every day.
That's amazing. I'm going to use this as a quote from now on, that government's job is to help make systems work for people, that's its most basic. That's why we're here. And Clark, tell me, what were you doing in Charles County today? Why do we get the pleasure of a visit from COG?
Well, I came here a couple months ago to talk to the county commissioners, just to talk about the different programs that we run, answer any questions that they might have, and they identified a handful of issues, some water issues, clean water issues. We run a joint procurement program, so we buy things that everyone buys in this region, and if we buy them, we can scale that up and save taxpayers money. And then transportation planning. We house the Transportation Planning Board for the region, and all transportation plans have to go through the TPB's long-term plan. So last week, there was a really high-profile vote on whether or not to extend hot lanes over the Wilson Bridge.
And tell us what hot lanes are, please.
Hot lanes are the managed lanes where you have toll lanes,
where
you pay a variable toll and you maintain a certain speed. It's a way to hopefully alleviate some traffic, but it was an idea that Virginia put on the table, but we're a tri-state region, so votes came from Maryland, DC, and Virginia, and we're the place where the ideas and plans are discussed and voted. Ultimately, that initial plan was not included in the Transportation Planning Board's long-term plan. So we came out today with some of our staff who know those topics really well and met with Charles County staff and did a deep dive on those 3 issues. I'll tell you, we had a great turnout from Charles County staff, a lot of great questions, a lot of great ideas, and for our staff to be able to meet their counterparts, because the Charles County residents and the staff, those are our customers. And so we need to be out here, we need to be present. It needs to be something you're used to seeing me in Charles County, because these are the folks we work for.
That's beautiful. I love that our staff was able to come up and engage as well, because we often say they are our first line of stakeholders in Charles County. So it's the idea that they can come in and share those frontline issues that they're hearing is wonderful. So thank you for being here. I hope it's a great visit. You picked a good weather day to be here. So hopefully you'll get to spend some time outside as well. And Commissioner Collins, as you transition into the chairman role, congratulations. And what exactly does that mean? What does the chairman of COG do?
I think most specifically, the role is one where you actually convene and preside over the meetings. So fundamentally, that's the primary responsibility. But for our county, it provides an opportunity for Charles County to be a part of a regional discussion, to be front and center in how our region approaches efforts to build our local economies, to provide more resources for transportation. It puts little old Charles County in the same discussion with the largest or larger jurisdictions in the entire metropolitan Washington area. I know when I first became a member of COG, some of the questions that came to me were, well, how can Charles County in any way have the impact of a Montgomery County, a Fairfax County, a Prince George's County, the larger jurisdictions that are in the region? There is a connectivity that I don't think people fully appreciate, and for me, being a member of COG assisted me in understanding that just a small thing. When you think about transportation and transportation needs, our residents commute on the roadways that are throughout this metropolitan region. So there's a direct connection. When you look at actual employment, because this is, one of my thoughts, and a priority for our government is Southern Maryland Rapid Transit. Just speaking in forums where Metro was a central discussion, the idea came out that a significant number of our residents are employed by Metro. So that interconnectivity, again, on first brush, I don't think there's a full appreciation, but there is a connectivity that exists in the region. And what COG does more than any other body is it provides a forum for leaders throughout this region to talk very specifically about the needs, and it provides an opportunity for us to really break down the barriers that exist amongst the various jurisdictions in this metropolitan region. And I want to be clear, collaboration is the key,
Right.
but there's a reality that exists. There's also a level of competition amongst these jurisdictions. Everyone wants that big piece of the pie.
Right.
But this collaborative effort and what the overall message that is being set forth by COG is, we can actually provide more in terms of resources by working directly together.
It's funny, I love a good metaphor. I love a good food metaphor. So when you say, we're competing for the piece of the pie, I hear that. I like a big piece of pie. But I also think there's something so valuable about it has to be a good pie for me to want a piece. And if our recipe is good, then the pie's better for everyone. And then we can figure out who needs a piece, what size. But we've got to have a good recipe. And what I hear you saying is that COG kind of is the let's figure out the best recipe for the pie that is best for this area.
Correct.
So that everybody who gets a piece has a piece of pie they actually can use, benefit from, that their residents enjoy. So thank you for that.
Correct.
And Clark, I assume that just like the competition of who gets the biggest piece of the pie, which exists, that's okay, we can be honest in that, I assume there's also a level of competition in a role like chairman of COG. How did Commissioner Collins end up in this role? What about, and I mean that in the, like, we know that Commissioner Collins down here is a leader, but as he said, Charles County, this is the first time we've had Charles County as a leader. How did this come to be?
Well, Chairman Collins has been involved in COG longer than I've been at COG. So COG will be 3 years as executive director this January, and we have 3 members of our executive committee, 1 representative from Maryland, 1 from Virginia, 1 from the District of Columbia. And in the time that I've served under Chairman Collins, I think the 2 things that I would say, he's kind and he's a good listener. Mm-hmm. And frankly, we need more of that in elected office, folks that are willing to sit and listen rather than just talk over folks and mm-hmm. really understand where people are coming from. And just kindness, right? And so I think in any organization, if you have those traits, there's a good chance you'll rise into leadership. So,
that's awesome. Thank you. I appreciate hearing that. It makes me feel good about our county and our county leadership. So thank you. I hope it makes you feel good to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to kind of share accolades because I was part of the committee, mm-hmm. That chose Clark as the executive director. And I can tell you one of the things in your presentation that stuck out to me was his understanding that COG could be even more of a force by doing things like visiting the various jurisdictions. And that provides an opportunity for the members to get a better understanding and appreciation of what exists throughout the region. Yeah. And that's something that resonated for me in his presentation.
So step 1 is removing the silos and getting out there and seeing what actually exists.
Well, yeah, getting back to the kind of the pie analogy, I mean, when companies are looking to locate or expand, they're asking some basic questions. They're drawing circles around that expansion site and they're saying, can folks afford to live here? Yeah. Do we have the workforce? Are they capable and talented? Can they get back and forth to the job site and not spend all their day in traffic? And those circles cross borders. Yeah. So Charles County is, yes, Charles County wants to win economic development deals in Charles County, absolutely. But if you can't move around this region and you don't have the workforce in this region and you can't afford a home in this region, they're going to look elsewhere. So you've got to, I always say, you've got to kind of attract the companies here first, and then we can all fight and sell jurisdiction A over jurisdiction B. Right. But you've got to get folks interested in coming here first. And other regions of the country are competing against us. When you think of the Houston Galvestons or Atlanta or the Research Triangle, they sell their regions. And they sell their regions effectively. And a lot of times that's a little bit easier if you're just in one state. The states view economic development kind of as a zero-sum game.
Right.
But this National Capital Region or DMV or whatever you call it, we are our own economy.
Yeah.
And we've got to get our governors and our mayors and folks working together to sell this region. And if you do that, it's really a rising tide will lift all boats. So if the district is doing really well and hitting on all cylinders, Charles County is doing better too.
That's
and
awesome.
If Charles County is doing well, then Northern Virginia everyone's doing better.
Yep, there is a lot of, I always laugh when I'm driving and you get the GPS is like, welcome to Maryland, welcome to DC, welcome to Virginia, and it's flipping through the areas very quickly. We are so interconnected. So what are some of the priorities that are coming up that COG is looking at under your leadership, under Commissioner Collins' leadership? What is COG hoping to accomplish in the next year?
Well, we'll certainly look to Chairman Collins to articulate what are some priority areas. We've had a chance to talk. I think economic development, this region's going through a moment right now. Our largest employer, the federal government, has been shedding jobs, and kind of irrespective of what you think about that at the national level, good, bad, or indifferent, it's having a profound impact on this region.
It's happening regardless of where you fall politically within it. It exists.
Sure, right. And so here in Charles County, over 25% of the workforce works for the federal government. And then when you add contractors in, it's almost 40%. There are some census tracts, and a census tract's about 4,000 people, where almost 1 out of every 2 people you meet works for the federal government. So when you're losing jobs at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 jobs are losing or being relocated or furloughed, it's going to have an impact economically. So we have stood up a site recently called talentcapital.ai, and it brings to bear all the resources. So the Secretary of Labor for Maryland was at the announcement with her counterpart from the district and Virginia. And you can go on that site. It's got over 100,000 jobs listed. But it's not just a static site. It uses iterative AI, which actually takes your resume and absorbs that information and matches you with good jobs in this region. And then we've got a commitment from the companies on that site to give federal workers and contractors a really hard look at being employed. One of our biggest challenges and opportunities, I said we're the most talented region in the country. Other regions understand that, and they want that talent.
Right.
And we want that talent to stay here. And they're cared for, they're loved and appreciated. So this We the People campaign, which you see on buses and you see downtown arenas, is an effort to talk to those folks and remind them that they're valued and loved and we want them to stay right here. So I think economic development, one, dealing with the changes at the federal level, but two, selling this region as a region. And I think we can do a better job. This region has done that in the past when we went after the Olympics. They did it when we went after Amazon HQ2, but it shouldn't take a once-in-a-generation economic development opportunity to talk about this region as a great place to live, work, and raise a family.
I appreciate that sometimes, we always show our best game when something important is happening. Like, oh, Amazon might be interested. Everybody get ready, get ready.
Right.
But really, it is more of an ongoing, we should be talking about this all the time. We should be promoting it all the time. And Commissioner Collins, when you hear that, when I hear that, that's a heavy lift. That's like if these were easy things to accomplish, we would have done it. Other jurisdictions would have done it. I mean, these are not new problems and they're not going to be solved immediately. How do you approach guiding those efforts? What are your thoughts on how to help guide COG through this?
And Clark used the term, and I'll start by saying being open to listen. Because I think one of the negatives for many of us as elected officials is there's a tendency that we don't really listen to anything. We have in our minds what we believe should be done, but a central part of any collaborative effort includes actually listening to the concerns raised by your partners. And there's a uniqueness to any COG meeting because you're literally hearing from voices throughout the metropolitan region. And there's a level of consistency because what you find, no matter what jurisdiction you're in, we're dealing with and addressing many of the same issues. That's why, as a core matter for me, and it's been a priority for COG, is to continue our efforts addressing housing affordability. I don't want to lose track of that during the next year. And I want to really merge that discussion with efforts to fully develop the local economies within the region, because I think it's fundamental to how we view the future.
And they go hand in hand, right? That we have to get people here and boost the economy, but when people are here, they have to be able to live affordably to be here. So it's not a one-step approach, it's really a combined effort.
Absolutely, and it's important for us in this moment, when we talk about, the federal shutdown, what's happening in terms of national policy. It's important for us to, yes, address what is before us, but it's also important for us to take that next step, to actually look at the potential opportunities that exist in this region to expand the overall metropolitan Washington economy. And that has been something just in where I've been in public forums, I've really made that point, and I really want that to be a part of this next year's agenda. I want to make it clear, not by any stretch is, you talk about the heavy lift, it's not going to essentially be a lift of mine individually. I mean, COG has an outstanding staff that assist all of the chairs in preparation for our various meetings. That's something I saw when I chaired TPB, and speaking to my colleagues that are the chair and vice chair now, that's something that they've really made clear to me. On the staff level, you're fully prepared. There's opportunities, again, for you to interact with the leaders throughout this region, no matter what the subject matter is. And I can tell you, my tenure representing Charles County at COG has assisted me in setting forth numerous policy initiatives that you've seen our county embark on, during the last nearly 20 years.
So it's a two-way benefit.
Absolutely.
It's what we are able to go to COG and share ideas up, but we're also able to go to COG and bring ideas down.
Right, and I'm glad, because that was a point I wanted to make too, about the benefit that our citizens receive from COG, because on a staff level and COG has the ability to assist, our county government in terms of providing information on information that will be useful when we move forward on various policy initiatives. So,
That makes
I mean,
sense.
so I just think in many instances, I just believe our citizens are not fully appreciative of what the role of COG is.
I think for a lot of our residents, it's a lack of understanding, which is why we do episodes of the podcast like this to show that there is a greater, I think sometimes we think about our residents may not even understand what local government is doing and then what local government's doing around local government. Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple things. I mean, in many respects, the citizens shouldn't know necessarily that COG is working on something. They expect to live in a safe community. We run 28 public safety programs on behalf of the region. We run the fingerprint ID system, which fingerprints show up in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia databases. We run the pawn exchange, so if something is pawned in Charles County, that shows up in a database in Virginia. We run the mutual aid agreement, which allows a Charles County police officer or firefighter respond across jurisdictional boundaries. So in January, when that mid-air collision happened over the Potomac, people didn't, so folks mentioned COG and kind of the after-action reports, but 90 different agencies responded, 90. Hundreds of folks, and command and control, who has the lead, what does liability look like if something happens, is run through COG. And that mutual aid agreement's in effect when the president was inaugurated, when President Carter's funeral, during the January 6th insurrection a few years ago, when you saw those state troopers going across the bridge, the mutual aid agreement was put into effect. We run a procurement program where we leverage the buying power to save folks money. Now, that's something I think folks expect their government to be doing, but we don't need necessarily for COG's name to be out there. So it's nice to be able to come and share these programs. And the other thing that I would mention, housing's a great example. Housing's too expensive across the board, but what works in Charles County as a solution isn't necessarily the same solution in Alexandria or DC or Montgomery County. So as much as the chairman's a good listener coming to COG and listen, we have to be good listeners and understand, okay, we've articulated this as an issue, but just because Alexandria has a certain set of solutions, that's going to look different and be different in Charles County. And while we have so much in common across this region, we are geographically diverse. We have our own rich histories, and getting to know the localities. That's why it's important being out here today and listening to staff. And I think the return on investment. Our budget is it's lean and mean, but under 10% of our budget comes from member dues. But every dollar that's coming to COG from Charles County, we got to make sure we're being responsive.
I think that's a value. What you're saying mirrors what we hope our residents feel just about their taxes within Charles County. To even that next big picture of, we're not just trying to make Charles County better internally. It's where do we fit in and how do we work better as a region. I think you make a great point that we often don't know government is happening until the worst day. Right. So you don't notice that the roads. You don't notice that you're driving on county roads until you have an issue. You don't notice that public safety is doing their job until something's stolen and it gets shown up in a pawn shop in Virginia,
Well, and transportation planning takes years. So in the last couple of years, we've awarded Charles County $6 million in transportation planning dollars for roadway projects and bike projects that'll happen across the county, but this takes years to plan. And we had our planning staff here today talking with your staff about these projects and what's next for Charles County.
Getting excited about what's coming. So I want to touch briefly on, we've mentioned affordable housing, we've mentioned economic development, we've talked about transportation, which I know is a personal, really big project for Commissioner Collins, and it sounds like for COG also. I want to touch briefly on climate resiliency and where COG fits in on that. Can you talk about COG's stance and what you're looking to do?
Sure. Well, I mean, clean air and clean water. We all want clean water. We want to breathe clean air, and that is a topic that does not just stop on a map. That's a line on a map. And so we have a clean air monitoring team. So when those wildfires were happening in Canada last summer and it was a red air alert day, we put out those alerts.
Okay.
And then we work with Charles County staff. What does that mean for Are you open and closed county government? What does that mean for schools, after school activities, that sort of thing? We have a clean water team that literally goes out and Charles County had a brook or a stream or a run that they wanted to possibly be restored. We take the measurements, we put a plan together. Here's what it looks like to restore that body of water. So the Anacostia River Project, which is a joint project between the district and Maryland, for 40 years we've been working on. And the Anacostia River is so much cleaner than it was just a few years ago.
It's now like a highlight instead of an eyesore or an embarrassment
And those tributaries go all over this region. And then we look at things like emissions and gases that are going into the atmosphere. and work with staff on ways to bring those down and strategies for the region. And so we've had phenomenal success in reducing greenhouse gas emissions in this region over the past few years. And so and that's due to not just government but private sector and everyone.
Collaboration.
Different behavior, different technology.
Yeah.
I mean, you think of the cars we all drove growing up and the gas mileage we got, and with the hybrid engines now and things like that. I mean, there's some really big success stories. Transit's a big part of that emission story, right? Getting more folks on Metro, on buses, and we do a lot of work with Metro and our bus providers. Buses start in maybe Charles County or Prince George's. They go to D.C., they go to Virginia. And if you've got a resident sitting in traffic on a bridge or sitting in traffic in Northern Virginia, you're going to want to work with those jurisdictions on how to get those folks moving, because time is money.
Right.
It's money for those individuals. It's money for the transit providers. There are places in this region where we are spending more money to add more buses onto traffic-clogged roads and getting worse service as a result.
Right.
And you could actually save money if those buses were going a little bit faster. You wouldn't have to buy another bus. You wouldn't have to hire another driver. You wouldn't have to fuel another bus. So working with, but it's hard for counties and jurisdictions to say, hey, I pay my county taxes to go to this transit provider. What do you do in one county over, right? But these counties are all connected, and we live, work, and play across jurisdictional boundaries.
And it's like you said, a government is working when its systems work for the people. So
That's right. Yeah.
I want to wrap up by asking, because I feel like we could sit here all day and I could keep asking you questions, and you two could. This is such a passion. It sounds like more than just a career for you both. Clark, what's one thing that if you could ask our listeners and viewers in Charles County to just take away from this conversation, remember, share with their friends and family and networks and communities, what's something that you hope that a resident in Charles County learns about today and remembers about COG?
Well, your elected officials care, and they work really hard. And when I presented to the county commissioners, they're folks of different political backgrounds, but they love this community, and they're working hard. We don't get everything right all the time. But we are in the community, we are listening, and we're connected. And I don't think that's something that your residents need convincing. I guarantee you, someone in Charles County is working in Prince George's or driving to Prince George's or Montgomery or working in D.C., and if we can get those systems working better together, and we can stay here all day and talk about how we treat the unhoused, how we treat folks that are having mental health crises, how we have economic development or housing or transit policy, all of those things are issues for Charles County residents and cannot be solved just within the confines of Charles County.
So here's to that, looking for collaboration to make solutions that are better for everybody. I love that. Thank you. Commissioner Collins, what's one thing that you hope our listeners and our viewers, your constituents, take away from this conversation and remember about your role in COG, your leadership in COG?
Hopefully there's more of an appreciation of the fact that as a region, many of us face the absolute same challenges, and there's really no disconnect. And what COG provides is a forum and an opportunity for the voices of whether you live in Fairfax County, whether you live in Prince William, many of the concerns that are raised and many of the discussions that we see on a day-to-day basis, they impact the entire region, and all of us are members of this region. And I just wanted to very briefly also make it clear that within the next year, I do not want in any way to pivot away from the commitments that has been established by COG on dealing directly with climate change. Vision 2050 is and its continuation is extremely important to the health and well-being of this region, notwithstanding the fact that the present administration has relaxed a lot of the efforts that were put in place, and this is primarily by COG, addressing this very important issue, and I want us to continue that momentum. So that is a key element to where we will see this region in the future. And I definitely want to close by really emphasizing the point that this opportunity that appears to be a challenge for us right now can arguably be an opportunity for us to develop more opportunities for this region and more opportunities for absolute success.
It's a beautiful note to end on. Thank you so much. And I love that success in Charles County is success for the region, and success in the region is success for Charles County. So thank you for leading the efforts within our county and beyond our county. Clark Mercer, our Executive Director of COG, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, and thank you for being here, not just in the studio recording this today, but thank you for being in Charles County today.
Look forward to coming back. Thanks.
Please, a challenge accepted. Now, you should know that once you say that, like, we will
Hold me to it.
invite
Let's
you
go.
back.
Come on, let's go.
Once you sign up for one podcast, we're going to have more. And Commissioner Reuben Collins, who is also stepping into the role of the chair of COG, thank you for your ongoing leadership in our county and beyond.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, our Charles County listeners and viewers, for tuning in. We hope this has been an interesting conversation for you so that you know a little bit more about what's happening in Charles County and our region. If you'd like more information about COG, we'll put the website in the show notes, but you can always go to mwcog.org to learn more. And of course, go back and listen to previous episodes of Inside Your County Government to learn even more about what's happening in Charles County. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and stay engaged.
Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, search Charles County Government on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to like and subscribe. We're also available on YouTube. Search Charles County Commissioners. And stay connected for all county news, information, and programs by visiting www.charlescountymd.gov/stay connected.